A woman with small breasts means psychology. Facts about woman's body that will shock. Have you ever wondered what the body can tell us about a person's character, desires, and emotions? From the smallest details to the most subtle features. What if the body holds profound clues that can unlock the deepest secrets of human behavior? Today, we're diving into something that may just shock you. How certain physical traits, especially in women, could reveal hidden truths about their psychology. Stay tuned till the end to discover all 7 surprising insights. Stoics, throughout their long and insightful lives, mastered the art of observing human behavior and understanding the deeper layers of human nature. Their philosophy was built on the belief that the body holds profound secrets, from emotions to desires, and that paying attention to these physical cues could unveil truths often overlooked. This theory, though ancient, remains as relevant today as it was during their time. In this episode, we're about to delve deep into one of the most fascinating aspects of human nature, the psychology behind certain physical traits. Specifically, we'll explore the ways women's bodies can reveal more than meets the eye, providing clues that could challenge some of our common assumptions. Intrigued? Well, stay with us until the end, because what we're about to uncover might surprise you, and I promise it's more than just physical appearance at play. Now let's jump right in and explore the 7 chapters that are bound to leave you thinking. Chapter 1. The significance of a small nose. You might be thinking, what could possibly be interesting about a woman's nose? Well, you'd be surprised. Have you ever noticed how some women with smaller noses seem to have certain distinguishing traits that go beyond just their appearance? It's not just about how they look. It could be about how they carry themselves, their personality, and even their relationships. Believe it or not, there has been a long-standing belief that the size of a woman's nose can be linked to other aspects of her body, particularly her intimate anatomy. While this idea might seem strange at first, it has persisted throughout history, and some modern psychological theories still find traces of this connection. The Stoics, known for their sharp observation of both human behavior and biology, would likely have seen the nose as more than just a physical feature. To them, it could have represented much more, a gateway to understanding a person's overall health, vitality, and even their deeper, more intimate qualities. From an evolutionary perspective, a smaller nose has often been considered a feminine trait. It's commonly associated with delicacy or fragility, which raises intriguing questions about the connection between facial features and body traits, especially when it comes to more personal areas. While the scientific evidence on this matter might not be solid, the idea has strong roots in cultural beliefs. Many have speculated that a smaller nose could reflect a smaller, more refined, intimate area, echoing the notion that a more delicate or subtle physical feature is connected with a more refined or subtle body shape overall. This connection between a woman's nose and her intimate anatomy isn't just a modern theory. It dates back to ancient beliefs, where people thought that different body traits revealed deeper truths about a person's character, sexual nature, and overall personality. Why is this so fascinating? Because it taps into our natural human drive to categorize and make sense of the world. We often look for patterns, seeking explanations in places we haven't yet explored. So, what's the truth behind these ideas? Let's dive deeper to uncover more about the significance of these features and whether they hold the psychological weight that we think they do. And in the next chapter, we'll move on to uncover another striking insight about human nature that could just change the way you look at attraction. Stay tuned for more. Building on our previous discussion about how certain physical traits may hold more significance than we often realize, let's now delve deeper into the concept of attraction and how subtle body features can influence our perceptions. As we've seen, Stoics believed in observing human nature with great care, and while we may be quick to form opinions based on first impressions, they remind us to avoid jumping to conclusions. Today, we're going to explore the intriguing connection between a woman's physical traits, particularly her nose, and how it can be tied to deeper psychological assumptions. It's often said that a small nose can symbolize femininity, softness, and grace. And while this might seem like a trivial detail, for centuries, many have regarded it as a key indicator of a woman's overall physical and sexual allure. A small nose, so often associated with delicate features, is thought to speak volumes about a woman's elegance, subtlety, and even the perceived refinement of her other bodily areas. This idea, however, is far from universal. While certain cultures have prized smaller noses and associated them with ideal beauty standards, viewing them as signs of refinement and gentleness, others may not hold these beliefs in the same regard. Still, in many societies, the small nose remains an idealized feature, one that hints at a woman's overall gracefulness. But does this really provide an accurate reflection of a woman's entire body, including her intimate anatomy? The Stoics would advise us to avoid making sweeping judgments based solely on these external features. While it may be tempting to form conclusions about someone's personality or physicality from their nose size, the Stoics remind us that the human body, in all its complexity, doesn't always follow predictable patterns. After all, no two women are the same, and physical traits don't always align neatly with cultural assumptions or personal expectations. From a psychological standpoint, the tendency to link a small nose with particular body traits, such as a smaller or more delicate, intimate anatomy, might stem from our natural inclination to seek patterns and order in the world around us. Attraction, as complex and mysterious as it can be, is often easier to navigate when we have frameworks that help us understand it. We look for small details to guide us in the intricate world of relationships, but those details don't always provide the full picture. While it's fascinating that a small nose could become a focal point for such assumptions, it's important to remember the Stoic perspective. Stoic philosophy urges us to observe and reflect, but not to overly attach ourselves to these surface-level conclusions. A nose, while a notable feature, should never be the sole basis for judging someone's overall character, body, or sensuality. The idea of linking a small nose to feminine refinement and beauty has also been reinforced by modern media and beauty standards, especially in Western cultures. Today, the idealized small button-like nose is often seen as a symbol of delicate femininity, which can inadvertently extend to beliefs about a woman's intimate anatomy. But as Stoics would argue, beauty standards are far from fixed. What one culture considers beautiful or desirable may be perceived completely differently by another. Furthermore, while we may draw conclusions about beauty based on individual features like the nose, it's essential to look at the bigger picture. How do all the features of the face work together to create symmetry and overall attractiveness? What truly defines beauty isn't a single characteristic, but the harmony of all those features coming together. The Stoics would encourage us to remember that true beauty and attraction lies beyond superficial assumptions and is rooted in the whole person, their essence, not just their appearance. In the next segment, let's explore how other subtle physical traits might influence attraction, and how these features, much like the nose, might carry deeper meanings that challenge the stereotypes we often take for granted. Stay with me as we delve further into the psychology behind what makes us drawn to one another. Picking up from our earlier discussion on how certain physical traits are often attributed to deeper psychological and cultural meanings, let's dive into another interesting observation, one that ties back to our understanding of beauty and refinement. We've explored how a small nose has been viewed by some as a marker of femininity and subtlety, but it's important to understand that these ideas are merely fragments in a much larger, more intricate puzzle. The notion that the size of a woman's nose can reveal something about her intimate anatomy, for example, is rooted in cultural myths and psychological tendencies, not scientific facts. The Stoics would urge us to look beyond these surface-level assumptions and avoid drawing conclusions based solely on physical traits. After all, the human body is an incredibly complex and unique system, and no single characteristic can define a person as a whole. In truth, while the size of a woman's nose may spark curiosity or even serve as a point of discussion, it's just one tiny piece of the vast picture that makes up her essence. This connection between facial features and deeper body characteristics, like a supposed link between a small nose and intimate areas, is more of a cultural reflection than a universally applicable truth. So, when we observe these traits, we should approach them with an open mind and a healthy dose of skepticism. And that's where the Stoics excel. They encourage us to see the world and people with clarity and wisdom, free from the biases that our culture or assumptions might impose on us. As we move forward, remember that each person, especially women, carries a story and a body that cannot be defined by one feature alone. And now, let's explore another feature that many have linked with femininity and elegance: delicate hands. For centuries, delicate hands in women have been celebrated as symbols of grace and refinement. In many cultures, women with smaller, more delicate hands are often seen as embodying a gentleness that transcends physical appearance. These hands are not just tools of action, but also of expression, creating a silent language that speaks volumes about their owner's character. However, as with many other physical traits, some cultural beliefs have persisted, believing that smaller, more delicate hands could signify refinement in other areas of the body, particularly in the realm of intimacy. While these ideas are not supported by scientific evidence, they remain a fixture in various psychological and cultural interpretations, reflecting humanity's long-standing fascination with how one part of the body might hint at another. From a Stoic perspective, hands are far more than just physical attributes. They are instruments of action, channels through which we shape the world around us. The Stoics, masters of observation, would likely have viewed hands as symbols of how a person interacts with life itself. Small, delicate hands might, in their eyes, reflect a more controlled, mindful approach to the world, a person who exhibits restraint, gentleness, and self-awareness. But let's not be quick to oversimplify. The belief that smaller hands correlate with other physical traits, like a more petite or delicate physique overall, stems from the wider cultural tendency to find patterns where none may exist. It's an attempt to create coherence in a world full of complexities. And yet, just as the Stoics advise, we must avoid drawing sweeping conclusions based on assumptions. The true value of any person lies not in isolated features, but in the balance of their whole being. So, as we continue to uncover the meanings behind physical traits and delve deeper into understanding human nature, we're reminded that the most profound insights often come from looking beyond the surface. Now let's move forward to explore yet another fascinating trait, the shape and structure of a woman's hands and how they may serve as a mirror to her inner world. Stay with me as we continue to unravel the layers of human attraction and psychology. Continuing, from our exploration of how physical traits like hand size can give us a glimpse into a woman's personality, it's essential to take a step back and remember that these observations, while intriguing, should always be approached with balance and care. As we delve deeper into understanding human attraction and connection, it's vital to recognize that physical traits are just one small piece of a much larger puzzle that makes up an individual. Hands, for example, can reveal a great deal about a person's personality and temperament. But while the size, shape, or delicacy of hands might suggest certain qualities, it's crucial not to overgeneralize or make assumptions based solely on these features. Every woman is unique, and her body tells a complex and varied story. For instance, while women with delicate hands might project a sense of gentility, grace, and reserve, this doesn't automatically mean they are shy or passive. Hands are powerful tools of expression, capable of communicating everything from assertiveness to sensuality through the smallest gestures. Whether she's more hands-on and active or prefers a more reserved approach to life, her hands can often reveal her true nature. Think of it this way: her hands may be the first to show her comfort level or emotional state, acting as an honest reflection of her mood, desires, or hesitations. If a woman hasn't experienced physical intimacy in a while, her hands might carry additional symbolic meaning. They could represent the restraint and control she has practiced over time, a sign of the careful boundaries she's maintained. Her hands might even show the tension between a desire for connection and the need for personal space, something that might not be immediately obvious in her words, but becomes evident through how she moves, touches, or holds herself. Consider how she uses her hands during your interactions. Does she express herself openly, using her hands to emphasize her words, or does she keep them close to her body, perhaps signaling caution or reservation? These small, seemingly insignificant gestures often tell more about her comfort level and emotional state than any verbal communication can. A slight touch on your arm, a gentle brush of her fingers against yours, or the way she holds an object can reveal much more than words ever could. Sometimes, a woman may unconsciously express her attraction or interest through these delicate, intimate gestures. But remember, the Stoics would encourage us to observe without jumping to conclusions. Hands, like any other physical feature, are merely a window into the soul, but they are not the whole story. A woman's delicate hands could indicate a multitude of things, from her physical makeup to her emotional world. But the key is to observe with patience and understanding without making assumptions. Let her actions and words guide you, paying attention to the subtle nuances of her body language. With time, you'll be able to uncover the deeper layers of who she is, beyond just the surface-level traits that first capture your attention. In the end, delicate hands are just one part of the larger, more intricate picture that makes up a woman's essence. While they may reveal subtle clues about her inner self, it's important to approach each interaction with sensitivity, allowing her to share her story on her terms. And with that in mind, let's move on to Chapter 3, where we'll explore a distinctive feature that often catches the eye: gap teeth. You may be wondering, what do gap teeth reveal about a woman? Let's dive into this intriguing aspect and uncover the deeper implications, building on the idea of how small, physical traits like hands can reveal more about a person's deeper nature. Let's shift our focus to another intriguing feature: gap teeth. While this may seem like an unusual point of interest, there's a long-standing cultural belief that gap teeth can reveal more than just a unique smile. Throughout history, various cultural beliefs and folklore have been quick to link gap teeth with specific, intimate traits. It's an idea that's persisted through generations, suggesting that women with gap teeth often possess certain physical characteristics, particularly a smaller and more refined, intimate anatomy. This connection has fascinated many, becoming a popular topic in discussions surrounding feminine beauty, body language, and attraction. From a Stoic perspective, which values deep observation and reflection, every aspect of the human body can be seen as a potential reflection of one's inner self. The Stoics would have found it intriguing to consider how gap teeth might fit into the larger narrative of understanding human behavior. While they might not have specifically endorsed the belief that gap teeth correlate with intimate traits, they would have certainly appreciated the human instinct to find meaning in small, seemingly unrelated details. For the Stoics, gap teeth would simply represent another facet of a person's uniqueness. They wouldn't necessarily tie this physical trait to anything specific in the body, but would instead observe it as part of the whole human experience. But why then have gap teeth been linked to smaller, intimate anatomy? This idea may stem from a broader cultural fascination with symmetry and proportion. In many societies, a perfectly aligned smile is often associated with conventional beauty, whereas gap teeth introduce a sense of imbalance. This disruption of symmetry may lead some to speculate about other misalignments or unique qualities in the body, including intimate anatomy. The idea of smallness being associated with neatness, refinement, and control is historically tied to femininity, which makes this connection all the more intriguing. From a psychological perspective, gap teeth can evoke a sense of mystery and fascination. It's a rare trait, and as humans, we are naturally drawn to what is unique or unconventional. When we encounter someone with gap teeth, it's not unusual for the mind to wonder if other parts of their body share that same uniqueness or even possess other uncommon characteristics. For some, this curiosity extends to the belief that a woman with gap teeth might also have a more delicate or smaller, intimate anatomy. Though this connection is rooted in cultural mythology and psychological associations rather than scientific evidence, it highlights the human tendency to link physical traits with deeper meanings. However, the Stoics would remind us that while it's natural to look for patterns in these small details, we should approach them with caution and avoid letting assumptions cloud our judgment. Every woman, regardless of whether she has gap teeth, is a unique individual worthy of appreciation for who she is in her entirety. The Stoics would encourage us to see beyond physical traits and celebrate the full complexity of a person, appreciating their essence instead of reducing them to mere features. So while gap teeth may provoke curiosity or raise questions, it's important to remember that these physical traits, no matter how intriguing, don't define the whole person. Now, with that in mind, let's move on to Chapter 4, where we'll take a closer look at another physical characteristic that has sparked much curiosity and discussion: the shape and structure of a woman's lips. Building on the idea that gap teeth, despite their intriguing history, now symbolize individuality and charm, let's turn our attention to another fascinating aspect of human appearance: cheek structure. While gap teeth may have once sparked assumptions about a woman's intimate anatomy, the physical traits that capture our attention today often tell a much deeper, more complex story. In today's society, gap teeth are often celebrated as a mark of uniqueness and confidence. Women with gap teeth proudly flaunt their smiles, embracing this trait as part of their identity. The belief that gap teeth might indicate something about a woman's intimate areas is less relevant now, as we increasingly value diversity and individuality over conformity. In fact, these kinds of assumptions about physical traits are being replaced by a broader appreciation for what makes each person unique. Despite this shift, the lingering idea that gap teeth correlate with smaller intimate anatomy still captures the imagination of some. It's a belief rooted in myth and speculation rather than grounded in scientific evidence. Yet, it persists, not because it holds any real truth, but because it taps into our instinctive desire to find patterns in human behavior and appearance. This pattern-seeking tendency is what makes the notion of a link between gap teeth and intimate anatomy so enduring, even as the concept loses relevance in modern conversations. What gap teeth truly symbolize today is much more than any outdated assumption. They are a representation of confidence and individuality. Women with gap teeth, far from seeing them as imperfections, see them as defining features of their beauty. These women embody a sense of self-assurance that transcends their physical appearance. Their gap teeth are not a mark of something lesser, but a proud statement of who they are. So while the connection between gap teeth and intimate anatomy remains an intriguing cultural idea, it's essential to remember that the body is a vast and complex landscape. It cannot be defined by a single feature or trait. Just as a woman's smile, whether she has gap teeth or not, tells only part of her story, so too do these beliefs offer just a glimpse into the way we perceive femininity and sexuality. Now, with that in mind, let's explore another physical trait that has long been the subject of intrigue: the structure of a woman's cheeks. Throughout history, certain cultural beliefs have suggested that the shape and fullness of a woman's cheeks could provide insight into her more intimate characteristics. But how valid are these beliefs? How do they influence our perceptions of beauty, femininity, and sexuality? Let's dive into Chapter 4, where we'll unpack the impact of cheek structure and what it might reveal about how we view attraction and femininity in both ancient and modern contexts. Stay tuned. Building on the earlier discussion about gap teeth and how human beings are prone to making connections between physical traits and deeper, sometimes unfounded assumptions, let's now shift our focus to another commonly discussed feature: the structure of a woman's cheeks. Fuller cheeks have long been associated with softness and youthfulness, and interestingly, this perception often extends to assumptions about a woman's intimate anatomy. The idea that women with fuller cheeks may also have a smaller, more delicate, intimate area isn't a new concept. It's a belief that has been passed down through generations, influencing everything from the depiction of women in classical art to the modern societal standards of beauty. This widespread notion that fuller cheeks equate to a smaller, intimate area plays into society's obsession with symmetry and balance. In many cultures, symmetry is linked with beauty. We naturally gravitate toward things that seem proportionally perfect, and a well-balanced face with fuller cheeks suggests harmony. In our subconscious, we may even associate that balance with the rest of a woman's body. The idea is that women with fuller, rounder cheeks might also have a more compact, refined, intimate area, simply because we are conditioned to recognize and appreciate symmetry. However, while this might sound convincing, it's crucial to remember that these are just assumptions, not grounded in scientific evidence. The Stoics, with their emphasis on observation and reflection, would remind us that physical traits can only provide us with a glimpse of someone's identity. Fuller cheeks, like any other feature, are part of the unique makeup of a person, but they don't define their entire being. The Stoic mindset teaches us not to make hasty conclusions based solely on appearances, recognizing that true beauty lies in the qualities that go beyond the surface: intellect, virtue, and character. Psychologically, this tendency to link certain facial features with specific characteristics stems from societal norms and expectations. For centuries, we've been conditioned to associate softness, femininity, and refinement with features like fuller cheeks. This often leads to the unconscious belief that these women possess similar qualities in other parts of their bodies. Yet this belief is just that, an assumption, not a fact. These culturally shaped perceptions have subtly influenced how we view others, affecting everything from our dating preferences to our own self-esteem. So, while it's easy to be captivated by such ideas, it's essential to remember that every woman is unique. Her physical appearance, no matter how seemingly symmetrical or delicate, doesn't define her in totality. The Stoics would remind us that our interpretations of beauty and attractiveness are just pieces of a much bigger puzzle, one that includes her inner qualities and the depth of her character. As we move forward, let's consider another prevalent belief: the assumption that slim women tend to have smaller, intimate areas. Does body composition truly have any bearing on this assumption, or is it just another societal myth? Let's dive into Chapter 5 to explore this topic further, where we'll uncover more of the beliefs that have shaped our perceptions of women's bodies and the psychology behind them. Stay tuned. Building on our earlier discussion about cultural assumptions linking body composition to intimate traits, let's now explore another pervasive belief: the idea that a slim woman's body might suggest a smaller, more refined, intimate anatomy. This idea, deeply rooted in both cultural and psychological factors, suggests that the leaner a woman's frame, the more likely she is to have a similarly compact, intimate area. For centuries, this belief has shaped the way we view women's bodies and has become intertwined with cultural norms surrounding femininity and attractiveness. The Stoics, always thoughtful in their observations, would have been intrigued by this connection. To them, physical traits were seen not only as reflections of the body, but also as potential indicators of balance, health, and harmony in life. A slim body, often associated with restraint and control, might lead to the assumption that other aspects of a woman's physical anatomy follow a similar pattern of being compact or refined. In cultures worldwide, Slimness has long been admired as a marker of youth, vitality, and beauty. People often assume that these qualities extend to a woman's intimate anatomy, creating the belief that a lean frame correlates with a smaller intimate area. This concept continues to influence how we perceive women, particularly when it comes to attraction. Psychologically, we are naturally inclined to look for patterns and connections in the world around us. So it makes sense that we might connect slimness with a similarly structured, refined, intimate anatomy. However, it's essential to approach this assumption with caution. While the idea may seem compelling at first glance, it oversimplifies the complexity of human bodies. Every woman is unique, and slimness does not necessarily correlate with smaller, intimate features. In modern times, this cultural emphasis on slimness has been magnified by the media and beauty standards. Slim women are often portrayed as the ideal in terms of femininity, and this portrayal reinforces the idea that they must possess refinement in all aspects of their bodies, including intimate areas. But, as the Stoics would remind us, appearances are just that, surface-level indicators that often don't reveal the whole story. While the belief that slim women have smaller intimate areas might continue to be popular in certain circles, it's largely a cultural assumption, not a scientifically backed fact. It's important to recognize that every woman's body is her own, and no single physical trait can define her overall essence or intimate anatomy. The assumptions we make about bodies, whether based on slimness, size, or any other feature, are often influenced more by societal expectations than by reality. Now, let's move on to another common body-related myth that has fascinated people for generations: the relationship between breast size and other intimate characteristics. What do you think? Can the size of a woman's breasts really give us any insight into her intimate anatomy? Let's dive into Chapter 6, where we'll explore this topic further and continue to uncover the myths and truths behind how we perceive the female body. Stay with me. Continuing from the previous discussion about body-related myths, let's now turn our attention to another widely held belief: the idea that breast size is somehow connected to a woman's intimate anatomy. This assumption, much like the others we've explored, is deeply rooted in cultural perceptions, psychological tendencies, and the need for humans to find patterns in the world around them. The Stoics, known for their keen observations and focus on self-control, would have approached this belief with both curiosity and caution. For them, the human body was a physical vessel, an outward representation of a person's experiences and nature. They would argue that while one's appearance can provide some insight into their health or habits, true understanding of a person comes from deeper interactions and a closer examination of their character, not from surface-level judgments like breast size. To the Stoics, the focus should be on a person's virtues and inequalities, rather than making assumptions based on external traits, which could easily lead to misleading conclusions. And yet, despite these philosophical reflections, the belief that smaller breasts could indicate a smaller, more refined, intimate anatomy continues to persist. This idea is likely tied to societal standards and long-standing cultural associations between small breasts and attributes like slimness, youth, and an overall refined physique. The cultural belief is rooted in the idea that women with smaller breasts often have leaner, more compact bodies, and people extend that assumption to their intimate anatomy, as if every part of the body must adhere to a consistent, predictable pattern. pattern. From a psychological standpoint, this belief reflects the human tendency to seek cohesion and order in the body. Small breasts are often viewed as a sign of subtle femininity, and by extension, the assumption is that a woman with small breasts would also have a smaller, more delicate vagina. This connection between size and femininity may be alluring because it fits within the broader framework of societal expectations about what it means to be refined and controlled. The fascination with smallness is prevalent throughout many aspects of women's bodies, not just their breasts, and has been strongly influenced by cultural ideals of femininity and beauty. It's important to recognize, however, that this belief is far from universal, and it has no scientific basis. The association between smaller breasts and a smaller intimate anatomy is a stereotype, one that plays into the long-held idea that smaller body parts are more controlled or restrained, while larger ones, whether breasts, hips, or thighs, are linked to sensuality and fertility. Women with small breasts have historically been perceived as more reserved or less overtly sexual, further reinforcing the idea that their intimate areas must be similarly small and discreet. Yet this stereotype doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Every woman's body is uniquely her own, and no amount of external observation can accurately predict the specifics of someone's intimate features. Myths, like the one we're discussing, often prevail over reality, especially when it comes to complex, personal aspects of human anatomy. While certain cultural ideals may shape how we perceive women's bodies, these perceptions don't necessarily reflect the truth. In fact, beauty standards have evolved over time, and they've had a significant impact on how we view body types and intimate anatomy. Historically, when curvier figures were more in vogue, women with smaller breasts might have been seen as lacking in femininity. In contrast, modern beauty standards that idealize slim, lean figures have led to a revaluation, where women with small breasts are celebrated for their elegance and grace. While these societal shifts continue to influence how we view women's bodies, it's crucial to remember that a woman's body cannot be defined by a single trait or assumption. As we continue to explore the intricacies of human attraction and body perception, it's essential to approach these topics with an open mind and a deeper understanding of individual uniqueness. Moving forward, let's examine another common physical trait, breast size, and how it relates to perceptions of femininity and attraction. Stay with me as we delve into how these long-standing myths continue to shape our perceptions of beauty and intimacy. As we reflect on the previous discussions about how society often links physical traits to intimate anatomy, let's now turn our attention to a new and lesser-known concept that has been the subject of intrigue, the so-called B-leg structure. This particular feature is another example of how people attempt to find patterns in the human body, drawing connections between physical characteristics and deeper, often unfounded assumptions about a woman's body. The term B-leg refers to a distinct leg shape where there is a subtle outward curve, creating a B shape when viewed from the front or side. It's a feature that isn't widely talked about, but for those who subscribe to body-related myths, the idea has persisted that women with this leg structure tend to have smaller, more compact, intimate areas. This theory, much like those concerning other physical traits we've explored, arises from the human need to look for patterns and correlations, even when there's no scientific foundation to support such assumptions. From a Stoic perspective, this is where caution and careful observation come into play. The Stoics believed that every aspect of the body could offer insights into a person's health and nature, but they were also keenly aware of the dangers of jumping to conclusions based solely on outward appearances. They would recognize the B-leg as simply another physical characteristic, something that can be observed but not necessarily interpreted as a deeper reflection of a woman's body or intimate anatomy. For the Stoics, the key lay in looking beyond surface-level traits to understand a person's true essence. Nevertheless, the notion that the B-leg is connected to smaller intimate areas continues to thrive in cultural conversations. This belief is part of the broader psychological tendency to link body features with certain assumptions about femininity, sensuality, and attraction. Just as we have seen with beliefs about small noses, gap teeth, and slim figures, the B-leg structure has become another point of focus for those trying to find correlations between physical traits and intimate anatomy. This pattern of making assumptions based on physical features is not unique to the modern world. Throughout history, societies have attempted to assign meaning to certain body shapes, believing that these traits could offer clues to a person's nature. Whether it's a small nose, delicate hands, or now the B-leg, these ideas speak more to our desire to create order and predictability in an otherwise complex and unpredictable world. But as the Stoics would remind us, these assumptions are ultimately just that, assumptions. They are shaped by cultural norms and psychological tendencies rather than concrete truths. The Stoics advocated for a deeper understanding of people, one that goes beyond what meets the eye. They would encourage us to focus on the qualities that truly define a person, their virtues, their character, and their actions, rather than relying on superficial traits to make judgments. The belief that a woman with B legs might have a smaller intimate anatomy, like many other body-related myths, doesn't hold up under scrutiny. It's another example of how our perceptions of beauty and attraction are influenced by culture, rather than any inherent truth about the human body. As we continue to explore these physical features and their supposed correlations with intimacy, it's important to remember that each woman is unique and no one trait can define her or her essence. As we move forward, let's explore another common belief, how breast size might be linked to a woman's body composition and intimate characteristics. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the complexities of these physical traits and the myths that surround them. As we've explored the concept of body-related myths and beliefs, it's essential to keep in mind the broader perspective that the Stoics would advocate for, looking beyond mere physical traits and understanding the deeper, more complex nature of the human body. Continuing from our discussion about the B-leg structure, which some cultures associate with certain intimate traits, let's now take a closer look at the intricate ways in which society connects physical features with assumptions about one's entire being. The belief that a woman's B-legs, characterized by a subtle outward curve, suggests a more refined and delicate intimate anatomy, plays into societal ideas about symmetry, proportion, and balance. This visual idea of elegance is often associated with a woman's grace and femininity, fueling the assumption that such elegance extends beyond the external to her inner anatomy. The connection seems almost natural. A beautifully curved leg might suggest a more compact, delicate body, But as we have seen time and time again, these physical features should not be the sole basis for deeper assumptions. The idea that bee legs correlate with a more refined, intimate anatomy remains largely speculative. While it may be tempting to draw conclusions based on visible markers like leg shape or other body characteristics, there is no scientific evidence to substantiate these claims. However, much like many other body-related myths, this one persists because it taps into our desire to categorize and simplify the complexity of the human form. Humans, by nature, like patterns, and we tend to look for signs that make sense of the world around us, even if those patterns are based on unfounded beliefs. Psychologically, women with bee legs are often perceived as more graceful and poised in their movements, which gives rise to the belief that their bodies are in perfect proportion and controlled. This grace is directly linked to assumptions about their intimate anatomy being similarly refined. But as we delve deeper, it's clear that these connections are more a product of cultural ideals than biological truths. From a Stoic viewpoint, it would be wise to step back from these surface-level assumptions and focus on a more holistic understanding of the body. The Stoics were keen observers, and they knew that the human body, while beautiful in its design, should not be judged based on individual features alone. The bee leg, like many physical traits, is just one piece of a much larger, more complex puzzle. As the Stoics would remind us, understanding someone truly requires looking beyond appearances and understanding their character, their virtues, and their true essence. So, as we take a step back and consider these beliefs and myths, it's important to recognize their cultural roots and the way they reflect our deep-seated desire to make sense of the world through easily recognizable patterns. While these ideas might seem intriguing, the Stoic philosophy urges us not to fall into the trap of oversimplification. Every woman, like every person, is unique, and no single physical trait, whether it's the shape of her legs or her body's proportions, can define who she truly is. In conclusion, we've explored how cultural assumptions about body features, such as bee legs, continue to shape perceptions about femininity and intimacy. However, as we've seen, these connections are often speculative and rooted in myths rather than scientific evidence. The Stoics remind us to value the deeper complexities of human nature, to see the whole person, not just the parts that are easily visible. As we wrap up this episode, let's reflect on how these beliefs continue to shape our understanding of beauty, attraction, and intimacy. Remember, while these surface-level connections might intrigue us, true wisdom lies in recognizing the multifaceted nature of human beings. So, as we prepare to dive into the next chapter of our exploration, keep in mind that understanding comes from observing with curiosity and empathy, not from jumping to conclusions based on fleeting physical traits. As we wrap up our discussion on the various body-related myths and cultural assumptions we've explored, it's crucial to remember the deeper message that underpins all of these ideas. We've examined traits like small noses, gap teeth, bee legs, and more, but the Stoics would remind us that each physical characteristic is merely one part of a much larger, more intricate narrative. The human body, especially that of a woman, is a complex and multifaceted story in itself. Every trait, no matter how large or small, contributes to the broader essence of who she truly is. While it's easy to fall into the trap of reducing someone to a set of physical features or culturally driven Myths. We must remember that every woman is unique. These traits, fascinating as they may be, do not define her entirety. No matter how much we analyze, we can never capture the full depth of her personhood. The myths and cultural beliefs we've discussed today are just that, myths. They might offer interesting perspectives, but they are not the ultimate truths. These ideas serve as a reflection of our collective human tendency to seek patterns and meanings, sometimes even where none exist. So, what can we truly take from this exploration? Perhaps it's a deeper appreciation for the individuality of women, and a renewed reminder to approach such topics with both curiosity and respect. Whether a woman has small breasts, gap teeth, B-legs, or any other distinguishing feature, these are merely parts of her physical form. They are not the whole of who she is. The Stoics would urge us to look beyond the surface and focus on the things that truly matter, the character, wisdom, and inner strength that define a person. In their philosophy, a person's worth is not rooted in superficial attributes, but in their virtues, actions, and the depth of their spirit. So as we conclude, I encourage you to think critically about the ideas we've discussed today. Remember to observe, but also to question. Look beyond the superficial traits and value the complexity of the women in your life. Each woman is a rich tapestry of experiences, emotions, and stories, and it's essential to appreciate her as a whole, not just for the visible parts that catch our attention. If you've enjoyed this episode and found it thought-provoking, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. If you have any personal stories or insights related to this topic, I'd love to hear them. Let's keep the conversation going, because understanding the human body, both inside and out, is a journey that never truly ends. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and those around you.